It's time.
Turn it. It's every time. It's every time. I'm consistent with the mission every time. Drip up on my wrist and neck, you know I shine. No capping when I'm rapping, you can check your life for line. Every time. It's every time. I'm consistent with the mission every time. Drip up on my wrist and neck, you know I shine. No capping when I'm rapping, you can check your life for line. I do this every time. Yo, world, what's rocking with y'all, man? My name is Kyren Monteiro, man. It's great to be with y'all today. This is episode number 1 of the newly formed podcast called Board Talk, presented by Frequency Canvas. And what this podcast is for is to deal with all things audio production. Now, a lot of people that we're going to be targeting on this podcast is going to be podcasters, musicians, recording artists, music producers, audio engineers, content creators, videographers, anybody that is dealing with audio production within the industry, any industry where audio production exists. We are going to be giving y'all some tips. We're going to be talking to people, interviewing people. There's so many great people in the world. Matter of fact, give all of the creative people in the world a hand, man. Yes, sir, because that's what we are on this show. We are creative entrepreneurs, and it is my honor to be with y'all. Like I said, my name is Kyren Monteiro. I'm the CEO and the president and the owner of Frequency Canvas, which is an audio production that offers high-end audio production services for musicians, music producers, audio engineers, podcasters, everything that we just named earlier. Frequency Canvas can get you right. So if you want to contact our office, shoot us an email, office@frequencycanvas.com, and we can get you set up with some amazing service. Now, this first episode, we are going to be talking about the 6 different stages of production that goes into making a song. I got literally my blood brother, Dorian Walls, a.k.a. D-Time of 4 a.m. Sound, out of Michigan, here in the United States. He is a phenomenal producer. He actually produced that song on the intro that we just played called Every Time, which is my new record, which is available now. And we're very excited to have him. So actually, we're going to give Dorian a call, and we're going to get him rocking in on this thing. Hear that loud and clear.
Yo.
D-Time, what's happening, man? You here on the Board Talk, episode number 1. What's rocking with it, young king?
Hey, man, not much. Just chilling. What you up to?
Hey, man, trying to get this podcast launched, man. I want y'all to know that this is all on the spot. And, yeah, man. So, hey, man, round of applause. Round of applause for my little brother. He want to look just like me in real life, don't you, bro?
Hey, man, you know, not at all. You know that's factual.
How you rocking, man? So D, man, you've been doing music a long time. You're involved in all different stages of music. You're a recording artist yourself, a songwriter, music producer, and beat maker, a musician, a production owner of a production company / record label, many things. And it is an honor to have you on the show, man. And I want to thank you for coming on, man. So we appreciate you being here, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate the call, man. It's always good to partnership and work together, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. I played Every Time on the intro, man. And speaking of music production, that was one of your records, man, that you produced and tracked and made the beat for, man, here at our studio, Frequency Canvas, man. So one of the best doing it, man. That's for sure.
Yeah. Hey, it was a good time, man. Just randomly came down there, and we make it happen every time.
Yeah, man.
I dig that, man. I definitely dig that, man. How you doing, man? Give us some updates before we dive into this episode.
Hey man, doing good. Got some new records about to drop soon. Some records dropped last Friday. So yeah, that's pretty much about it, man. Just always working, always grinding.
Yeah, man. I dig that. I definitely dig that, man. Well, hey, man. Today we want to dive into the 6 different stages of music production. I don't think that people realize the amount of work that goes into their favorite record on the radio, on their favorite playlist, maybe some of their favorite records historically. There can be a lot of work that goes into this. And also not only just people being fans of music, but also for different artists, right? Who are trying to get into being a recording artist. I find that on the engineering side, especially with like small up and coming independent artists, that they're so uneducated on how much work, right, that it goes into making records and who responsibilities fall on in the different phases of making records, man. So I think that you would be somebody perfect to dive into this with.
Yeah, you know what I always say when we always talk about when people got to know their craft. Like you got to know what you're doing. If you're gonna be in this industry, you just have to know it. You're not gonna know it right off the bat, but ask questions. You don't want to be in the way of the process, but you want to be, around it in a sense. Because you can't get in the way if you're trying to be in it too much, and everybody has a role. It's a team. Making records is a team thing.
Man,
you got a point guard, you got a shooting guard, you got a small forward,
man,
you got a power forward, and you got a center.
Mm.
None of those intertwine. Everybody knows their role and know what they have to do to get that dub. So that's how music is, man. You got to know your role and know what you got to do to get that dub.
Man, that's masterful advice right there, man. Let's dive in, man, to these 6 different steps of the music production process, of the record production process, of making a record, whatever you want to say. In these 6 different stages, we're going to list them for y'all, and then we're going to dive into them chronologically in order.
Okay.
Songwriting is the first stage, arranging is the second, tracking is the third, editing is the fourth, mixing is the fifth, and then mastering is the final and the 6th step. Dorian, I feel like these first 2 phases, your world exists in so much. So if you can talk about what that first phase of songwriting and everything that goes into that, and then arranging before you even get to going to the studio to record, if you can break them 2 stages down, and then I'll come behind you on the 3rd stage and bounce off of you.
Yeah, most definitely. I live in stage 1 and 2, both of those stages. So pretty much, man, stage 1, songwriting, and then 2, arranging. They're pretty much almost hand in hand. They work fluently together. Lyrics and composition. So pretty much how it is, get the melody. For me, creating the melody line, that pretty much always pops out to me first. And then my chord progressions come neck and neck with that. Either be the chord progression or the melody line for me. And then the melody line to me is nothing but words, just in a melodic way, in a musical aspect. So it talks to me and speak words to me as a producer. So that's pretty much how everything, as far as that first segment, works. then, as you going along, you get your foundation built, then you start arranging the record, kind of putting, how you want to sketch it out for your intro. You might want your intro to be 4 bars, 8 bars, verse, hook, or you might want it to go hook, verse, and, pre-hook. That stuff just flows along the way as I got older and I say more mature as a producer. You just got to let the music speak for itself. Like, let the music talk through you. Let the music speak. I don't want to get in the way of that process as a producer. Even myself, I can get in the way musically because I have to let the music talk. I have to let the melodies lead. I have to step away and diminish myself in an aspect and just do what my gift is as far as life is, making music. So I got to get out the way out of that and just let the music speak. And then the arrangement and everything just pretty much just works itself out. And then, after that, that's where it comes to tracking, And then as a producer, before you jump in, as a producer, you have to know how to track, you have to know how to drop these files down and convert them because it's a part of the job description,
Okay.
You can't do the job and want the title, in a sense,
So how would you explain the first 2 phases from a music producer's role? Tie that in with singers and songwriters, because we got songwriting in the first stage and then we got arranging. So bring your world into like making a complete record, right? So you got your side of it, but Ty working with a recording artist, working with a songwriter, and those first 2 phases. How do you expand, on what you just said?
Yeah, so pretty much as the composition side, like you said, and then as a songwriter, you first of all, as a producer, before you do that, you want to make sure it's open for the songwriter to do their job. You do enough, make sure it's open. Then you come through as a songwriter, you just really fill in those gaps musically, just go in those spots that you need, whether it's writing that melody out, going and flowing with those chord progressions and coming up with different, cadences. And then the words come with that, once you get your cadence and all that, you will start to flow with the words. And just like I said, as a producer, for me, as a songwriter, it's the same. I get out of the way. I just let the music write itself out, and that's where life comes into place. You reflect on life, whether it's, for me, you can write a record on the past, you can write it on the present, or you can write it in the future. It's however that stage of that record needs to go, you write the record, fill in those gaps musically, and that's pretty much it, man. Just keep it simple. You don't want to make music difficult, man. It's just like breathing. You don't really think about breathing; you just breathe.
So piggybacking off of what you said, so in the first stage of songwriting, for artists out there who are trying to understand even further what we're talking about, this is where the composition of the song, right? So depending on what genre you're in, it'll look different. But let's take genres like pop, let's take R&B, let's take hip hop, where you're working with compositions that are sequenced inside of a DAW, right? And a DAW, for people who don't know, is a digital audio workstation, and this is the software inside of the computer where everything is captured at, where all of the music production and all of the recording and editing and mixing and mastering, all of this stuff is within inside of a DAW, right? It's not produced off of acoustic instruments. They are programmed in by real people. And so when you're working with a producer, then the songwriter and the producer get together and they make this record, right? So on the songwriting stage, you have the music producer, you have the songwriter, they're working together to build this record up for the artist. And sometimes the artist may be the songwriter as well, right? And then in the arranging part, you're starting to do what D-Time is talking about and figuring out how you want to build the structure of the song, figuring out where you want things to come in, and how you really want to arrange this song to present to the artist. Or for the artist, you may just want to dive right in and start, testing out ideas and stuff. Now, in these first two phases of songwriting and arranging, there may be a demo record that is recorded. So say if a music producer and a songwriter is getting together and the intention is to shop this song around and get it placed for the right artist, right? And you start going through these channels of record labels and artist managers and all of these different streams that you can go to try to get a record, get it landed or what we call a placement, for the right artists and for the right opportunities. This stuff is already happening before that, right? So the music producer, the songwriter, they're already getting together, writing the song, composing the song, arranging and getting these ideas. And then they take it a step further and they do a demo or a reference of that. So there's a kind of a pre-recording phase so that the artist can hear it, right? And see if they want it. D, let's move on into this third phase, which is the recording phase, right? And so
Yes, sir.
Another word for recording is tracking. So after the song is written and composed and it's arranged and things are built and then, the structure is decided, now it's time to get into the recording phase, man. And this is where we go into an official studio that is hopefully professional. That can be in somebody's house. It can be in a commercial facility. And this is where we start making decisions like the kind of gear, aka equipment that we're using, right? What kind of microphones, what kind of equalizers and compressors, and really start to go in and really nail down this recording. Now, D, talk about from a music producer, and I'll talk about from the recording engineer, but from the music production side of things, after you get into this phase of recording, is really go time. What does that look like for you if you are involved in that process?
Oh yeah, this is the meat and potato aspect of it. This is you got to go hard in this area, because everything else is, at a creative standpoint, is pretty much already set for you. You got the the composition, which is set, and people know that as a beat or instrumental. The lyrics are already wrote for you, so now it's just time to deliver. Like now you got to deliver this thing. So this is probably my favorite. One of my favorite parts of making a record is recording it. This is the time where you deliver and you try different things. You try different cadences, like I mentioned earlier about cadences, finding things. In the recording process, you have to always be open musically, no matter what. You want to be in any stage. You want to have an open mind, even though you got the beat done, you got the song, you got the lyrics. You want to be open. So in the recording aspect, you come in with that open mind and you come in saying, I have to deliver this. You will find out certain melodies may not fit in certain areas like you plan to, and you make those adjustments, or you might find something better. And if you find something better, you go with it. Like, you have to have an open mind at all times.
Now, let me add on to what Dorian's saying, because this thing can get real deep. Depending on how many hands are in a pot, there may be a vocal producer that is involved in the process, especially if you're dealing with singers or you're dealing with hip hop that's real melodic, because hip hop is becoming more and more melodic. Day by day, year by year, it's very melodic now. And so, Dorian, when it comes to having vocal producers, what is the role of a vocal producer? Because that's something that a lot of people are unaware of, at the highest level of music, especially.
Yeah. So me, I'm an R&B head, so I'm always kind of looking things out of R&B eye, because that's my heart. That's where I live. So you get a vocal producer, or you got a vocal producer in there with you. They're, man, like I said, they're helping your delivery, making sure the delivery is at its best. That iron sharpens iron. So you working on pronunciation, you working on as like I said, I'm speaking from R&B, just breathing techniques, moving. Like you want to, like, when you sing in R&B, you how I was trained and how I was brought up was underneath real R&B gentlemen and real R&B people. So they like, you can't stand still. You can't sit still while you're recording. You gotta move. And there's different techniques that vocal producers and producers have that you just want to take heed of. And you got that aspect. And then you got stacking vocals. So knowing where to stack things and harmonies, where to put the harmonies, how to put them. It's just so much with the vocal production that you can go into, as far as an R&B aspect. So,
and like I said, this is in hip hop as well, because like I said, with auto tune, with a lot of tools now, with hip hop being more melodic, you might have a hard hitting trap beat with melodic vocals on it. So a lot of those R&B and pop inspired techniques are finding their way into hip hop. More and more hip hop recording artists have vocal producers. If they're signed to a record label and they have the budget, or if they just are independent and have the budget, there are more and more vocal producers who are being introduced to hip hop. And then touching into vocal production, you just talked about, stacking vocals and the harmonies and building. Even vocal arrangement and how and where to put things. Oftentimes, vocal producers, this is the role, right, of a vocal producer. And it's crazy. And so we record the song, all of those. Let's talk about vocal comping, because that's also a part of recording. The recording process. So vocal comping. This is where, for those who don't know, for our listeners, this is where people may literally record like one word or like one bar or certain phrases. It can get ridiculous, maybe 20, 30 times, right, D? For some people. Have you seen it get that high?
Oh yeah. That's a part of the process, and that's to be expected. See, what I love, I didn't work with major label artists, and I worked with independent artists, top level, and I worked with, independent artists, that's up and coming. The best thing about the great R&B people that I've worked with thus far is that they know that's a part of the process. So it's really no rush, no hurry. And sometimes you just got to let them do their thing too. Like, even though they messing up on a certain part, and they supposed to deliver a part a certain way. The greats that I work with, you don't say nothing to them at that moment. You just like, all right, cool. You just sit back and let them do their thing because they great for a reason. And you come back and they didn't deliver the part. If not equal, most of the time, it's always better than what you needed. And that, like I said, that's just a part of the process. So, like, man, if you gotta deliver that thing 20 times to get it to perfection where you need it, that's the time you take. That's the recording process. Like I said, it's to be expected.
And,
you know what I mean?
And on the hip hop side of things, or just other genres as well, also a part of that vocal production. As an artist, you really want to work hard at being prepared for those moments. I know that the home studio market is at an all-time high, especially since the pandemic in 2020. I know, talking to different people just at Sweetwater alone who are salesmen, home studio owners have skyrocketed. The market for it is just even higher than it ever has been. And I think that that's a great thing. But I think at the same time, it makes people not know how to work. I think taking your time on a record is great, but I think the pressure of being in the studio with professionals also puts you in a hot seat and puts you in a spotlight to perform. And I think that sometimes the best takes come when you don't have a month to play around with it. You know what I mean? Like, you need to get in there and execute and get it done. So for a lot of artists, I just want to say, like, even if you're recording at home or you're going to a professional studio to record, you need to be prepared. And you need to spend time before the recording phase, in that pre-production phase of songwriting and arranging and making sure that you are prepared for that moment. Also, things in vocal production, you have things like pitch correction, right? So, people know what auto-tune is, but you also have things like Melodyne. Which, yep. or things like Melodyne, which have the capability of literally note by note going in and fixing notes that are flat and sharp. And man, you can build 3-part harmonies out of one note, that was just sung in just a single octave. Then you can build it, like, you can do crazy things with the technology. You also have things like time alignment. So there's something called vocal align, and that deals with the timing of all of these different stacks. So let's say, a vocalist has, 10 to 20 different stacks. There's no way that all of those are going to be just synced together. So what this does is it analyzes, it'll take the main vocal and then line these other things up at the end of the day. Also, a part of vocal production is deciding the actual vocal effects. This is also decided by vocal producers and music producers. Where does this delay go? At this spot and at this bar, we want this kind of effect on the vocals, and we want them to jump out of the speakers pan like this. That's all a part of vocal production. Keep in mind, we're still in the recording phase, right? So these different things, and that brings us to this next phase, which is editing. And editing deals with cleaning up tracks, vocal production, and editing. And so we've already covered some of the vocal production stuff. But Dorian, let's talk about cleaning up tracks, man, in this editing phase and what that looks like after the record is recorded. What does that look like holistically now when we're looking at a whole record, cleaning up stuff, getting stuff organized? What are some of these different things once the song is actually recorded?
Yeah, so before we jump into the editing phase, even though we got all these tools, right, to make these corrections, to make these cleanups, you want every phase to be flawless. You don't rely on the tool. You know what I mean? You want to make sure everything is flawless and as best as it can be, because it makes each process and each phase more easier, and it makes it more better. It just enhances everything. So I know we said like, hey, these tools can do this and that. That don't mean you come in and you just have, and in a sense, you half-ass the song.
Right.
Because you got pitch correction. You just like, I'm gonna sing it just enough. No, you always do everything top notch, and then you come in with the editing, cleaning up. Like you said, adding certain drops and editing, or taking certain things out. And as far as the editing stage, as a producer, you might be like, hey, this instrument is not needed here. It's good. It's already full. Take that out. Let it breathe a little more. Create a little more room for the vocals. The vocals need to sit here. So it's another stage. Like I said, you have to be open-minded on each stage for a record to be great. You and I, we love to make great records, but the most important thing, we want them to be timed. So you have to be open.
Yeah, you definitely have to. You have to be open. And in this editing process, at stage 4, what we're getting into now, we've kind of already jumped the gun a little bit. But the vocal production and the song arrangement, these things can be decided in that. And for people out, I want to stress the importance of being organized in the studio and having a plan. If you have a plan and if you're organized, it will make everything more possible. So when you're cleaning up tracks and getting things ready, in this cleanup and in this editing, you may be taking, some artists don't want any breaths in a song. So you may be doing that. There may be one unwanted background noises. You may be doing that.
Yeah,
you may,
de-essing.
Yeah, you just de-essing vocals, doing things called gain staging, and some of these things will have their own individual episodes. This is more of an overview. We're not gonna get into those kind of details. But what's crazy is that in cleaning up, also these decisions of when stuff can happen, like he's saying, maybe you want the verse to be more intimate, so you take this guitar that was in the chorus, you take that out during the verse, or you take, this kick drum or this clap out at this part so the vocals can breathe. So those kind of things can be done in the editing process, which is another word for post-production. And so those are where you get some of those things. The next stage is mixing, right? And after all of these things are done, there's normally a audio engineer that specializes in this specific area of audio production when it comes to making records. And what mixing is where you take every individual element of the record, literally every single thing, and you bring it all in one session inside of your digital audio workstation, inside of the DAW, and you start making all kind of decisions. The balance of the record, you start making EQ decisions and compression and effects. And the main responsibility of this process is to invoke the emotion of the song through the speakers. That is the prime responsibility of the mixing process and of the mixing engineer. You want to take the vibe that this songwriter, that this music producer, that this recording artist, that this vocal producer, whoever was involved in the record up until that point, you want to take whatever their vision and vibe and emotion of the record is, and you want to elevate that emotion through the speaker even more. And so, especially for you audio engineers who are listening, you need to make sure that you're not only mixing from a technical aspect, but you're mixing records from an emotional aspect. If you are not mixing records from an emotional aspect, you are literally failing every client that you mix for and that hires you at the end of the day. And honestly, they shouldn't hire you. That's just my honest opinion. Now, D, for you as a music producer, when you are sending records off, right, it's made it all the way up to this. So it's written, it's arranged, it's recorded, it's been through the editing process, all the vocal production has been decided on, the arrangement of the record. Now it's time to mix it. So you as a music producer, you are one of the most instrumental and most influential people in the mixing process itself, right? Music producers have a lot of say-so and a lot of influence if they're allowed to be involved hands-on in this stage, especially. From your side as a music producer, what does that look like when it comes time for mixing and you're not doing it, right? Let's say you're bringing on somebody like myself or somebody else who specializes in it. What are you looking for on the, on your side of things, and what should artists be looking for?
Yeah, man, first you want to have a great engineer. You want to have a great mixing engineer like yourself. Makes the job so much easier. It can be debatable, and no answer is right. But to me, this is the most important part of the song. You get me? Because you can write an amazing record. You can have an amazing beat. You can have an amazing vocals are great. Harmonies are great. But now, like, everything is living and breathing at this point. Your mixing engineer can either kill this at this stage, or they can turn you into a superhero and give you a superpower. That's debatable. But like I said, this is the most important stage to me. Because you man, how can I explain this? Like you have everything set. Your mixing engineer is going to make those key edits and create that space that's needed on a sonic level. You did everything musically, and in not saying that a mixing engineer doesn't make decisions musically, they do, but it's to me, on my aspect, it's more on a technique level, creating a space and giving things depth where it's needed, letting bass sit at a certain place and not be too distorted, but just sit right in its own pocket and have the vocals crisp but warm, and have your drums punching, but it's not, too like where it's not peaking and just causing a sonic nightmare. This is where everything to me is game changing.
Yeah, it often was said that it used to be said that mixing is the make or break process of record making. This is the make or break point. And everything that you said is true. Let's talk about what mixing is not. Let's demystify it for a little bit. All of these things that we talked about before, a lot of details that we talked about, and really, we didn't go too crazy deep, more so just on a a great overview of these things, just to educate people who may not know. But there's a lot of things that people expect to happen in mixing, in my opinion, that should already be done. And I think things like vocal production decisions should already be done, right? So tuning and pitch correcting vocals, in my opinion, should already be done. When it comes to the music, the producer should already have done certain things, right, to influence that sound. Them, or if they have an engineer, the tracking engineer working with the artist should have already made certain decisions with the vocal producer on where things go. The mixing engineer should already be handed something, right, that tells him or him or her, like, this is the direction that you need to go. There's oftentimes, a reference mix is included as well. But even when you're talking about once they're giving all of the tracks and saying, take it from here, I think that those decisions should already be made prior to mixing. That way that the mixing engineer can build on that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I get real passionate about music because I love this. This is my life. So it's a few things here in this stage. One, you got to be realistic. You have to be realistic at this point. You can't lie to yourself. You can't live in that fantasy world. You have to be realistic. So now we got to kind of come down to a technical aspect. Are you realistically giving your engineer a great product for them to enhance? So like you said, making sure that certain decisions were made before it even got to their hands and in their hands. I agree with that. That's being realistic. So when you hand that engineer that record, if you hand it to them in the right way, meaning you did everything top tier, you don't really even have to tell the mixing engineer what you want and what you need because they already hear it. You know what I mean? You can already, if somebody hands you a record, I can speak that this is facts because you and I have done this from an artist to engineer aspect. I hand you a record and I don't really have to say too much because you already know what I did in the process of where it should go.
Mm-hmm.
I did my job, gave you a good rough draft of a mix saying, this is what I want. This is it. The music speaks for itself. So when you get the record, you like, I don't need you to write me a 2-page paragraph, email about what you want. You already heard it. You hear it.
So you're being nice right now. So basically, this is what D-Time is saying. Before you get to mixing, you should already have a great record. If you don't have a great record, you shouldn't even be talking about mixing a record. Is that what we're saying? Are we agreeing on that?
Yeah. That's exactly it.
If you do not have a great record, why are we even mixing the record? You need to go back to the drawing board and make the record better, or just scratch it and make a better record. At the end of the day, make a great record. If you do not have a great record, I don't even understand why it's getting mixed, right? Because every artist is not going to be great. I work with artists, and I've worked with all kind of artists throughout the years and different parts of the country, all at different levels, right? As far as notoriety and accomplishments and career-wise. But one thing I notice is that, every song is not going to be great, right? So every song is not going to be this possible number one hit, right? Every artist isn't going to be great. Every record isn't going to be great. But I will say that from an engineering standpoint, it is easier to be influenced by a great song than a terrible song. A great song will automatically tell you what it needs, like what D-Time is saying. At the end of the day, you just get inspired. It's like, yo, I'm ready to do this now. I'm ready to start working on this now. I just have ideas. Like, I can't even keep up. Like, I'm ready to do this now. Dorian, I missed your project that came out in 2020, I believe. It's called Sets Tape. It was released on your label and production company, 4 a.m. Sound. Let's talk about that process. And this is not to glorify me, but that project sonically turned out amazing. You worked really hard in the production phase, in the songwriting phase, in the recording phase, in the editing and vocal production phase to do the best that you could, and then you handed those tracks over, sent them over to Frequency Canvas. And then from there, I took it and, elevated it in the mixing and in the mastering process. So what was that experience like for you, being the music producer, being a recording artist and songwriter, getting those mixes back, getting the final masters back? What was that like for you? And what was that process like for the listeners to be able to take away from?
Oh man, it felt good. And it goes back to every step that we spoke about, taking my time with the records. Some records had to be redone, made certain improvements. You have to be dedicated to the process. If you win this, you got to be dedicated to it. And just giving you that canvas, and then you just painting the rest of the picture was good. And that's, like, to me, that's key. A lot of people think engineers is just supposed to create this sonic picture. Like, no, you don't want to give them a blank and empty canvas. Let them see your vision already. Because your vision, like you said, should inspire you to go mix it, go mix your records. Because engineers in mixing aspect, they're musically creative as well.
Yep.
So if you're not giving them no fuel to be creative in their realm, you've already failed the record and you already failed the process.
That's some great stuff right there, man. That's some great stuff. We could keep going on and on, but as time is approaching, we still want to get into this last phase. And that's mastering, right?
Yeah.
Now, for everybody who doesn't know, mastering is the last step in the creative process, the first step into the distribution process. I'm going to say that one more time. Mastering is the last step in the creative process, and it is the first step into the distribution process. Now, if we're talking about historically, let's talk about releasing an album, right? So with D-Time's record album, Sets Tape, that came out, right? So all of the mixes got done. Do you have 12 or 13 songs on there? How many was on there? 11?
Yeah, I think it was 12 or 13.
So let's just go off of 13. We could be wrong. Y'all can go look it up. But you have, these 13 mixes done. And let's just say, for some people's album, these mixes, you may have 13 different songs. They were mixed between 5 different studios and 4 different mixing engineers, right? So obviously the one of the sonic responsibilities of mastering is going to be to make this thing cohesive. From 1 to 13, you want to be able to put it in and listen to it. You want to, it should have all of these songs should work well together. So you shouldn't have number 1 coming in with all of this bass. Number 2 is coming in, and it's not hitting as hard, is less in volume, or the first song is super bright, and then this song over here isn't working well. These songs should be consistently well together and cohesive, and then they should play as good as possible through almost every kind of playback scenario for the consumer, right? And so that's one of the responsibilities of mastering, is to elevate the cohesive sound, bring these single random songs together and make them feel like they're supposed to be an album, sonically working through the speaker. Another thing is to individually make the song sound better. So you want to individually make the song sound better and then make them work well together. One of the responsibilities of mastering is also doing things like fade in and fade outs, the spacing between songs, deciding how soon song 3 comes in after 2 fades out. It also does paperwork like metadata and making sure that different formats of the album is ready. So if you're mastering for vinyl, that's going to need to be tended to that way. CDs need their own format. Digital distribution needs its own format. And then obviously mastering deals with the final level, and everybody thinks mastering is just making it loud. That's not what mastering is. And so this is another vital step for that. So D, with your project, you had all these amazing mixes, right? But then it even elevated another level in the mastering stage. What was that like to get your album back and be like, man, I got a finished body of work. Like, I'm ready to release this. What was that like?
Oh man, it was great. How I look at the mastering stage, to me, I call it movie time. You got your final, basically you're at the home stretch. So when you playing these records in sequence with each other, you should be able to close your eyes and it should take you into a story mode. I love movies. I make albums to reflect movies. It tells a whole story, so it sonically has to do that. So that's why I call mastering stage the movie stage, because now you done recorded all your scenes to the movies, and you got all your locations set. You got everything. Now you putting that whole project together for somebody to enjoy, and for them you take them to a place where they can envision this story in this movie just as well as you. So mastering is like, you got great mixes. The mixes are amazing, right? You take them to the mastering stage. Now it's like, let's make these a little more bigger. Let's make these little enhancements. We say little, but they're so key and so pivotal that it just, it's just tedious little things that are enhanced in the mastering stage, to me, that just makes things from great to amazing.
Now let's take this, because I haven't always mixed all of your music. You mix your own music.
Yeah.
So for those times where you have done everything from the songwriting phase all the way up to 5, you done all 5 phases yourself, and then you decided to hand off the 6th phase, which is, to a master engineer, to somebody like me, which is what I'm known the most for out of all of the audio engineering phases. What has that been like, right? Your own mixes, then you send them over to Frequency Canvas. I touch them up, send them back. What is that like when you hear your own mixes professionally mastered?
It's like I said, man, it's amazing to hear that final tweaks. Like, for me, mixing is like, all right, cool, I got it done. Let me take a breath. Let me relax. My ears can now relax and take a break from when I mix, because it's in your hands, right? So I'm speaking from not just a mixing the own record, but I'm talking as a producer, songwriter, all of that. So now to take a break from what I've been creating for however long, for a month, and you take a break from those records and you don't listen to them because they're in your hands for, however much time that is. When I hear them back, it's like me hearing them for the first time legitimately, because it's at the mastering stage. So now I'm like, dang, these records are amazing. Like, I didn't know these vocals set because they're pulled out a little more in the mastering stage. Like, everything just tightens up and comes together. It's great.
You know why I love mastering, man? People ask me, in 2014, I started to take mastering more serious. So from 2014, between 2014 and 2019, 2020, before the pandemic, I did a lot of just really almost strictly just being a master engineer. I still mix, but really, the main focus of the brand of my audio production brand was mastering and putting emphasis on that. And that decision paid me well. I've worked with, big legendary artists in the Christian hip hop realm, major label people, is millions of streams, Billboard charts, iTunes, all of those things. So that was a great decision for me. But the way that I hear music, I love all of the phases. Tracking is my least favorite phase, but I still love tracking with prepared artists and music producers who are ready. Mixing is amazing because mixing is an extension of music production. I mean, mixing, you can recreate a whole record for real in the mixing stage. Mixing can be so hands-on, but the thing about mastering that's crazy is that almost all of the time you're just given a stereo file of the final mix. So you don't have the individual elements like you do in the mix. You literally just have this one file, right? With all of these individual elements contained in this one stereo file, that have been summed up in a DAW, or maybe there's some kind of analog summing or whatever. And now it's like, hey, do the best that you can. And so the art of mastering for me became phenomenal because it was the challenge of like limited access, but making the most impact, right? With that limited access. And that literally is my philosophy when I master, is just to have the full frequency range just impact the speaker and the listener in a way where it's just like you said, it went from good to great. It went from great to amazing. It went from decent to great. Obviously it depends on where the mixes are. But you can do a lot of things. I mean, there's even been crazy things where I remember I literally not long ago, this year I mastered a gospel Christian record for a client of mine out of Dayton, Ohio. And it was just a piano and vocals. And literally they added no reverb. And he's like, man, can you add reverb to the vocals? I'm like, bro, this is mastering. You like, why didn't y'all do that in the mixing stage? And I was like, you know what? I want to make it happen. So I literally found a way to manipulate reverb on the entire song. And it was phenomenal. And it was the Manny Marquand reverb from Wave. So that's a shameless plug for anybody.
Shout out to Manny Marquand.
Yeah, shout out to the legend, man. And the way that I was able to make it work, it shocked me because it was directly on the track. It wasn't parallel. It shocked me because I had already sent over masters, and then they asked me for a revision that should have been done in mixing, and I still was able to make it happen. And so I'm going to say this, and then we're going to wrap up. At the end of the day, it's about making it happen. No matter what, no excuses, doing whatever you can, being dedicated to this craft in every phase, operating at the highest level at the end of the day. So, man, we appreciate y'all. We know this is lengthy. This is, we teetering into about an hour. And but I believe there's a lot of great information. There's no way that we covered all the ground. There's going to have to be other parts on this topic, rather with D-Time or with some other guests. But we're going to have to dive in some more. But D-Time, I really appreciate you being on here now. Just so y'all know, when I say this is my brother, this is literally my brother. We have the same biological father, so this is literally my brother. And so it's amazing to be able to have a relationship with your brother, with my younger brother, we have so much in common. D, is there any last things that you wanna say to the people, man?
Yeah, man, just take your time through each process. Be great. Don't rush yourself. Don't let anything fool you that things are just super quick. Find your way, find your sound. and make things simple. Don't overcomplicate the process, and you'll develop and be able to make timeless records. And that's what life is all about. If you choose to make music, and if music is your love and passion, just live and let everything breathe and make itself for you. And I can speak to that. That's how 4am sound was birthed. I didn't come out as a producer and knew what, I didn't know what my sound was exactly. It took time. And now that sound is birthed, and it still, enhances and gets better each moment. So just find your way, and always be willing and be open-minded and help somebody. Somebody needs help them out,
And I will make sure that that frequency canvas that we put D Times and 4am's information, so if y'all have music production services that are needed, he offers that stuff. He also is an artist, so D-time, as it says in the title and in the description, and y'all make sure that y'all tune in. And I want to, look, another round of applause. This is the first episode of Board Talk. Once again, we want to talk all things audio production. And D-Time, I'm glad that you are on here, man. Thank you so much. And y'all, I'm about to hit stop. And y'all make sure that y'all be blessed. Y'all be dope, sound great, have that canvas mentality, and stay creative. All right, man.